Disclaimer. Viewer discretion is advised as this video may contain disturbing images and content. The information presented is for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as a substitute for professional advice. The creators of this video make no warranties about its completeness or accuracy and will not be liable for any loss or damage arising from its use. Do you know which country has the smallest land area? Don't worry, everyone must have heard of him. He is the world-famous Vatican City. Vatican City is the residence of the highest leader of the Catholic Church. It is located next to the capital of Italy. Although it is the country with the smallest land area, it is the center of faith for 1/6 of the world's population. Perhaps it is because of the thriving of the Catholic Church that it has a greater opportunity to collect the most important information in the world than anyone else. For nearly 2,000 years, the data collected by the Catholic Church from all over the world has been stored in the Vatican Apostolic archives. This archive is likely to contain the most authentic history of humankind and answers to unsolved mysteries from around the world. Its importance surpasses that of any intelligence agency in the world. Even the list of archive administrators has never been made public. Today, what we want to tell you is that the information we are sharing with you comes from this most confidential archive. These data even include a prophecy about the Third World War, evidence of the existence of extraterrestrial beings, and the fact that time machines really exist. Today, we want to talk to you about the world's most mysterious archive. On May 2, 1972, the Italian Sunday Messenger newspaper published a shocking news that humans had invented a time chronovisor. This machine is quite large, and there is a TV screen-like thing on top of it that can display images of the Earth's past and future. It was invented by an Italian priest and physicist named Father Pellegrino Ernetti. Although Father Pellegrino Ernetti was a priest, he was also a physicist. At that time, this report undoubtedly shocked people's lives, and everyone was discussing it. Strangely, after this report attracted everyone's attention, there was suddenly no further media coverage, as if it had never happened. So this matter was gradually forgotten by people over time. Until 2002, a French priest named François Brune mentioned this matter in his book, The Vatican's New Classicalism. According to the content of the book, Father François Brune was very sure that the time chronovisor really existed, and now the machine is in the hands of the Vatican. He knew this because in 1960, he had met with the inventor of the machine, Father Pellegrino Ernetti, who had just been mentioned in the newspaper. At that time, they were discussing the content of the Bible. Suddenly, the priest told him with great emphasis that if people could directly understand the truth, they would not need a lot of theories and explanations. Then the priest verbally confirmed that he had indeed invented the time chronovisor, and even told François Brune about the operating principle of the machine. It turns out that this machine captures residual electromagnetic radiation in the universe, and then converts it into images through the machine. This principle is like when we see a planet 100 light-years away from Earth. What we see is not what it looks like now, but what it looked like 100 years ago. At that time, Father Ernetti asked a question: whether electromagnetic radiation could continue to exist in another form in the universe. This idea led to the birth of Time Chronovisor. The main goal of Father Pellegrino Ernetti is to verify the Passion of Jesus Christ. Capturing it and reproducing it on screen seems very difficult. They must first recognize that in the time of Jesus' life, being crucified was a common occurrence. Therefore, many people had the same fate as Jesus. Moreover, the crown of thorns that was placed over our Lord's head in the Bible has no symbolic meaning. The prevailing view among them is that this torture is unique. But they find that other defendants have also been subjected to this method of torture. In order to get an explanation in this regard, they went back in time to the past. Then, the Last Supper was presented to them visually and audibly. From this moment on, their sight never left Jesus. According to their investigations, it was in the year 35 AD. And later, the scene was precisely captured from January 12 to 14, 1956, and was tracked on the screen of the Chronovisor. In this way, they witnessed Jesus' struggle to death in the Olive Grove, Judas camp, Jesus' trial, and his passion. Jesus has already shown signs of torture. And he appeared emaciated when he was dragged before the judge Pontius Pilate. When he was forced to walk the path of passion to Golgotha after the verdict, they were also present. However, the rumors that have come down about how all this happened at the time are completely wrong, and the existing texts have undergone some modification due to the medieval piety they displayed. Later on, people added some plot details, perhaps to make the Lord's Passion story more dramatic. But the idea that Christ fell twice while carrying the cross doesn't match with the facts. He never fell, and he didn't carry the entire cross, which would have been very difficult. Instead, people simply fixed the horizontal beam of the cross onto Jesus' shoulders. He had to struggle to move forward because his feet were bound together with the feet of the two other men who were being crucified, as if the scene had once again come to life before his eyes. Jesus was indeed emaciated and his body was very heavy. The scourging inflicted deep wounds on his flesh, and in some places, he could even see the bone. According to Roman law, each condemned person had to be brought to the place of execution alive. So, Christ and the two soldiers who were bound with him simply grabbed a man from the crowd without thinking. His name is mentioned in the Bible, Simon of Cyrene. The situation was as described in the Gospels, with one limitation. The event unfolded differently from what is written in the texts we have today, which have been embellished. In reality, Simon had initially refused to help carry Christ's cross. In fact, he only did so under pressure from the soldiers. The woman later venerated as Saint Veronica wiped the sweat from the Messiah's forehead with a cloth. This event never occurred. There is no mention of it in the Gospels. Instead, Chronovisor shows them events that never appeared in the Bible. For example, when the three condemned men and their guards arrived at Golgotha, the reaction Christ had. There, many curious onlookers who enjoyed a spectacle were already waiting for the impending crucifixion. When Jesus saw the crowd, he turned to them and rebuked them in a rough manner. The same thing happened, just as it did when he was handed over to the high priests in the Garden of Olives. In Golgotha, his words once again showed their power. The crowd was conquered, and the people standing around fell to the ground as if struck by lightning. Like the Greeks and Romans who had come to witness the execution, the Jews were also touched by Jesus' compelling influence. Only Mary, John, and two other Marys, one of whom was Mary Magdalene, whom Jesus had converted, remained unmoved and continued to stand there. At this point, the speaker paused briefly to reveal a secret that would surely excite his Parisian guest. Father Ernetti corrected the Bible's claim that Jesus' mother and his beloved disciple wept when they saw him being nailed to the cross. Unfortunately, neither Mary nor John wept at the foot of the cross. Now we know that the Virgin Mary should not be considered a lacrimosa. Chronovisor provided additional details of the scene of Jesus being nailed to the cross, such as the words Jesus spoke before dying. At one point, Jesus, who was nailed to the cross, said to those around him, "This moment is yours." This statement is not found in the four Gospels. Just like Jesus' famous saying, "And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself." The words attributed to Christ by the Gospel authors after he was crucified do not match reality. According to Father Ernetti's description that fascinated his parishioners, one member of the congregation revealed that the face of Jesus on the cross was contorted with pain but maintained a noble, solemn expression. Whenever Jesus began speaking, he would look around from the cross, and the people around him would fall silent. François Brune further learned that with Chronovisor, individual fragments of text can now be added to the four Gospels. On the other hand, the behavior of Jesus shown on the screen also helps to better understand the meaning of his words. Ernetti believed that when Jesus complained, "I thirst," the Jewish interpretation of this was wrong, and the priest found that Jesus was referring to spiritual thirst. This was followed by the statement, "And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself." Brune believed that Jesus is talking about our soul's thirst. When Jesus, who was nailed to the cross, said to one of the thief being crucified with him, "Today you will be with me in paradise," Ernetti interpreted this as Jesus referring to himself. In fact, he is paradise. According to this Benedictine priest, another famous statement repeated in the four Gospels by Jesus, who was crucified, should also be corrected. When Jesus said, "Woman, behold your son," and, "Son, behold your mother." After these words, he turned his face to John, his beloved disciple, and added in confusion, "Where are the others? Why have they left me?" Ernetti firmly believed in the scene of Jesus being nailed to the cross presented on the Chronovisor, and argued that after this, Jesus Christ did not suffer the pain of suffocation and death, although many physicians still speculate this today. He said, "In any case, we see that the Lord maintained an upright posture on the cross until the last moment of his earthly life." Father Ernetti also witnessed the resurrection of Christ, but found it difficult to articulate. It's like it's in the shadows, like a snowflake plaster statue that glows through a thin layer of cover, or like a crystal. Step by step, everything is eventually revealed to them, the entire life of Christ. And what happened after his resurrection? How do you feel about all this? Is it all like a movie? Asked Brune. Father Ernetti denied, not entirely. To us, everything is three-dimensional, like a hologram, but it can move, and it comes with sound. He added a caveat, but it has no color. Today's people can certainly appreciate all of this in color and sound. The scenes on the screen were also recorded. But this would result in the loss of the three-dimensional impression. Nevertheless, this was their sole chance to gather evidence. They planned to exhibit the Chronovisor captured scenes in the future. He also captured a photograph of Jesus Christ crucified on the cross as evidence. Another theory is that this photo was only able to be circulated because the Church did not discover it. Moreover, the time chronovisor can not only see the past, but also adjust the space-time coordinates to see future images, and even hear sounds. However, after the invention of the machine, Pope Pius XII, fearing that the machine would fall into the wrong hands, took the machine away and prohibited anyone involved in the project from discussing it again. This may be the reason why all media coverage of the machine suddenly stopped. It is worth noting that in 1994, after Father Pellegrino Ernetti's death, an anonymous person privately told the media that they had Father Ernetti's handwritten will, which mentioned the existence of the time chronovisor machine again. Of course, this news disappeared without a trace once again. Thank you for watching.